Today's question is, who are the sons of the prophets in Acts chapter 3 in the New Testament, the Injil, and what does it mean? Acts 3 is where we find Peter's sermon to the Jews in the temple square. But first I want to say that although Islam claims to share some of the same prophets with Christianity, there are crucial differences between what the Quran and the Bible teach about them. This is an important distinction to make. However, since I've shared the differences in previous episodes, I won't labour the point. But just to say that each prophet of God agreed with the one who came before him. Those things foretold by the prophets in the Old Testament concerning the Messiah came true in the birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus. Then Mohammed came along more than 600 years after Jesus had already fulfilled these prophecies and taught the opposite message. But back to our passage in Acts chapter 3. Peter and John have just healed a lame man. Peter then turns to the Jewish onlookers and, using the messianic terms holy and righteous to describe Jesus, Peter refers to him as the author of life. Peter goes on to accuse the Jews of being directly responsible for Jesus' non-release and death at the hands of the Romans. And he tells them that to receive God's forgiveness, they must repent of this blatant rejection of Jesus as the Messiah. Now, the promise of the Messiah in the Old Testament is full of hope. The Messiah would be the promised son of David, and he would restore all things. The Jews knew this. You see, the Jews had been looking forward for centuries to the coming Messiah. So, Peter reminds his audience that this long-awaited hope was fulfilled in Jesus. It makes perfect sense that Peter would then reach back in time to quote from Deuteronomy chapter 18 in the Torah, because this passage is where we read of Moses prophesying that the coming prophet would be a Jew. Moses says this, "The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your brothers. It is to him you shall listen." So you see, the coming Messiah and the one who must be listened to would be a Jew. Moses goes on to warn them that anyone who fails to listen to this prophet shall die. For a fuller explanation of this passage found in Deuteronomy chapter 18, please do listen to the previous episodes where I asked the question, is Mohammed mentioned in the Bible? The Bible is clear. Jesus is the one you must listen to, not Mohammed. Now in Acts chapter 3, Peter also makes a point in verse 24 that every prophet that came both before and after Samuel taught the same message. This includes Moses. So the entire Bible, from Genesis onwards, predicts the coming of Christ as the coming Messiah. Peter closes his sermon by reminding the Jewish audience that they are the sons of the prophets and of the covenant that God made with your fathers, saying to Abraham, "And in your offspring shall all the families of the earth be blessed." Join us next week when I will conclude who are the sons of the prophets and what does it mean. I'll share the significance of Abraham in God's plan to redeem a people for his glory and their good, as well as what this means for the Jew and the non-Jew alike, and what the response ought to be.